The K'tarn observation chamber hummed with quiet efficiency. Ambassador Zethel adjusted her metallic blue scales as she reviewed the tactical displays floating before her council. The holographic projections showed scattered human settlements across 3 star systems, their primitive vessels moving between planets like insects crawling between flowers. Council members, we are here to finalize the classification of species designation human, Zethel announced, her voice carrying the authority of centuries. Military Advisor Corex, present your initial assessment. Corex's 4 arms gestured toward the central display. His scarred carapace bore the marks of countless battles across the galaxy. The humans show basic space travel capability, designs, chemical propulsion, primitive energy weapons, classic Category 3 civilization. Expected conquest time, 72 standard hours. Science Officer Nelith's tentacles writhed with what passed for amusement among her kind. Their technology lacks quantum processing, gravitational manipulation, or even basic shield harmonics. Most concerning is their apparent inability to coordinate beyond small groups. Each settlement operates independently. Psychologically, they present an interesting puzzle, added Dr. Vexim, the behavioral analyst. His large, multifaceted eyes reflected the data streams. They exhibit emotional decision-making patterns that defy logical analysis. They waste resources on non-essential activities and show unpredictable responses to threat scenarios. Tactical expert Quinder clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. Their military doctrine appears rudimentary. Linear battle formations, predictable engagement patterns, no evidence of strategic deception or adaptive tactics. We should proceed with standard subjugation protocols. Zethel nodded slowly. The Hegemony Council has already approved resource extraction from their systems. However, they've requested we document human responses for the xenological archives. She paused, studying the data. Admiral Corex, deploy your patrol squadron to the outer system designated as Sulfur Mining Zone 7. Begin with the research outpost. Standard intimidation protocols. Understood, Ambassador. My ships will make contact within 6 standard rotations. The massive K'tarn dreadnought Inevitable emerged from quantum slipspace with practiced precision. Its kilometer-long hull bristled with particle beam arrays and graviton torpedo launchers. Flanking it were 2 destroyer-class vessels, their crews veteran raiders who had broken dozens of primitive civilizations. Admiral Corex studied the human outpost through his ship's sensors. The station was laughably small, maybe 300 meters across, spinning slowly to generate artificial gravity. A handful of tiny human vessels docked at its ports like children's toys. Communications officer, open a channel to the human station. Standard surrender demand. Channel open, Admiral. Corex's voice boomed across space, translated by universal communication matrices. Human station, you are now under the authority of the K'tarn hegemony. Surrender immediately and prepare for resource assessment. Resistance will result in immediate vaporization. The response came quickly, carried by a young human voice. Unknown vessels. This is Research Station Endeavour. We don't have any weapons here, just civilian researchers and mining equipment. Your compliance is noted, Corex replied. Prepare for boarding parties. But instead of the expected surrender signal, something unexpected appeared on his tactical display. The human station was venting atmosphere from specific sections, not from damage, but deliberately. Strange energy readings spiked across multiple locations. Admiral, his sensor officer, called out, The humans are doing something to their fusion reactors. They're overloading the magnetic containment fields. Impossible. No rational species would destabilize their own power source. They'll destroy their entire station. Dr. Sarah Chun's voice crackled over the emergency channel from the station's command center. All personnel, execute Protocol 7. Research data is uploaded to quantum buoys. Marcus, get those families to the emergency pods. Sarah, the containment failure will take out half the station. Her deputy, Marcus Webb, protested. That's the idea. These aliens think we're helpless. Let's show them what desperate humans can do with a few thousand tons of superheated plasma. Corex watched, in growing confusion, as small pods ejected from the station. But instead of fleeing, they began moving in coordinated patterns around his ships. His tactical officer's alarm brought his attention back to immediate concerns. Admiral, the station's reactor is going critical, but they're using the magnetic field generators to direct the plasma discharge. The research station Endeavour became a brief star, but instead of expanding in all directions, the explosion channeled through modified mining equipment and industrial magnetic fields. A lance of plasma, hot enough to melt asteroid rock, struck the Inevitable's forward shield array. Alarms screamed across the dreadnoughts. Bridge as shield generators overloaded. The smaller human pods, mining shuttles really, had somehow coordinated their approach during the chaos. Improvised explosive charges, probably repurposed mining demolition gear, struck the ship's sensor arrays and communication antennas. How are they coordinating without central command? Corex demanded. His communications officer looked baffled. Sir, they're using short-range radio bursts and what appears to be light signals. Primitive optical communication. The destroyer. Swift Talon moved to assist, but the humans had prepared for that too. Emergency pods that seemed to be fleeing suddenly reversed course, ramming into the destroyer's engine ports. The explosions were small, but perfectly placed to disable the ship's maneuvering thrusters. As Corax's fleet struggled to respond to these impossible tactics, Dr. Chen's voice came over the communication channel one final time. Tell your commanders that humans don't surrender when our families are threatened. We adapt. The surviving human pods scattered into the asteroid field. Their simple chemical rockets somehow evading sophisticated targeting systems by using the debris field and electromagnetic interference from the station's destruction. Back in the observation chamber, the Kethver Council watched the tactical replay in stunned silence. The humans had lost their research station and over half their people, but they had also damaged to military vessels and escaped with their research data. This is unexpected, Zethel admitted. They sacrificed their own installation rather than submit. The probability models did not predict such behavior. Science Officer Nelith's tentacles twitched nervously. They used their environment as a weapon. Industrial equipment repurposed for military applications. Most disturbing is their willingness to accept massive casualties to achieve tactical objectives. We must reassess our approach, Dr. Vexim said quietly. These humans display behavioral patterns inconsistent with typical Category 3 species. They prioritize group survival over individual preservation, yet maintain tactical flexibility without centralized command. Admiral Corax's report arrived within the hour. Recommend escalating to battle group strength for next engagement. Human tactics are primitive, but effective. Zethel studied the data streams showing human activity across their colonies. Very well, Admiral. Take your full battle group to the Kepler 442 colony. 15,000 humans, established mining and manufacturing infrastructure. This time, we demonstrate overwhelming force. Understood, Ambassador. We will not underestimate them again. Corex watched in growing confusion as small pods ejected from the station. But instead of fleeing, they began moving in coordinated patterns around his ships. His tactical officer's alarm brought his attention back to immediate concerns. Admiral, the station's reactor is going critical, but they're using the magnetic field generators to direct the plasma discharge. The research station Endeavour became a brief star, but instead of expanding in all directions, the explosion channeled through modified mining equipment and industrial magnetic fields. A lance of plasma, hot enough to melt asteroid rock, struck the Inevitable's forward shield array. Alarms screamed across the dreadnoughts. Bridge as shield generators overloaded. The smaller human pods, mining shuttles, really, had somehow coordinated. Their approach during the chaos, improvised explosive charges, probably repurposed mining demolition gear, struck the ship's sensor arrays and communication antennas. How were they coordinating without central command? Corex demanded. His communications officer looked baffled. Sir, they're using short-range radio bursts and what appears to be light signals. Primitive optical communication. The destroyer. Swift Talon moved to assist, but the humans had prepared for that too. Emergency pods that seemed to be fleeing suddenly reversed course, ramming into the destroyer's engine ports. The explosions were small, but perfectly placed to disable the ship's maneuvering thrusters, as Corax's fleet struggled to respond to these impossible tactics. Dr. Chun's voice came over the communication channel one final time. Tell your commanders that humans don't surrender when our families are threatened. We adapt. The surviving human pods scattered into the asteroid field. Their simple chemical rockets somehow evading sophisticated targeting systems by using the debris field and electromagnetic interference from the station's destruction. Back in the observation chamber, the Kethva Council watched the tactical replay in stunned silence. The humans had lost their research station and over half their people, but they had also damaged to military vessels and escaped with their research data. This is unexpected, Zethel admitted. They sacrificed their own installation rather than submit. The probability models did not predict such behavior. Science Officer Nelith's tentacles twitched nervously. They used their environment as a weapon. Industrial equipment repurposed for military applications. Most disturbing is their willingness to accept massive casualties to achieve tactical objectives. We must reassess our approach, Dr. Vexim said quietly. These humans display behavioral patterns inconsistent with typical Category 3 species. They prioritize group survival over individual preservation, yet maintain tactical flexibility without centralized command. Admiral Corex's report arrived within the hour. Recommend escalating to battle group strength for next engagement. Human tactics are primitive, but effective. Zethel studied the data streams showing human activity across their colonies. Very well, Admiral. Take your full battle group to the Kepler 442 colony. 15,000 humans, established mining and manufacturing infrastructure. This time, we demonstrate overwhelming force. Understood, Ambassador. We will not underestimate them again. 3 days later, 8 Kethva warships dropped out of quantum slip space around the human colony of New Brisbane. The settlement sprawled across the surface of a tidally locked world. Massive domed cities connected by pressurized transport tubes. Orbital platforms processed raw materials from the system's asteroid belt. Admiral Corex commanded from his flagship. now supported by 4 dreadnoughts, 2 carriers, and a dozen escort vessels. Surely no primitive species could resist such overwhelming firepower. Admiral, his sensor operator reported, detecting approximately 40 human vessels in system. Mixed civilian and light patrol craft. No significant military presence. Excellent. Communications, broadcast, surrender demand on all frequencies. The response came from someone identifying herself as Governor Elena Vasquez. HFY. Vessels, this is New Brisbane Colony. We're prepared to discuss terms. There are no terms, Corex replied. Immediate surrender or face orbital bombardment. Admiral, we have 15,000 civilians here, including children. Surely we can reach some accommodation. Dr. Vexim, monitoring from the observation post, found the human response fascinating. Note the emotional appeal, Ambassador. They're attempting to invoke empathy, a psychological tactic rarely seen in Category 3 species. I will give you one standard. Hour to begin evacuation procedures, Corex announced. After that, we commence resource extraction operations. But as the hour passed, something strange began happening. The human ships weren't fleeing. Instead, they were taking positions around the gas giant's largest moon, using its gravity well and magnetic field in ways that made no tactical sense. Admiral, the tactical officer reported, the human vessels are launching some kind of probe network, thousands of small objects spreading through the system. Probably communication relays or sensor platforms. Ignore them. Begin landing operations. Governor Vasquez's voice returned to the communication channel. Admiral, we're prepared to surrender, but we need time to shut down our industrial reactors safely. A containment failure could irradiate the entire system. You have 30 standard minutes. What Corex couldn't see was the frantic activity happening below. Colonel James Park, the colony's defense coordinator, was implementing what the humans called the Fabian strategy. Elena, how much time do we have? He asked over the secure channel. Bought us 30 minutes. The reactor shutdown is legitimate, but it's also masking our real preparations. Good. The probe network is deploying perfectly. Every asteroid, every ice chunk, every piece of space debris in this system is now part of our sensor grid, and the industrial fabricators working. Over time, we've converted every 3D printer, every automated factory, every construction robot into weapons production. The aliens think we're a mining colony. They don't realize we're also the manufacturing hub for 3 star systems. Lieutenant Sophie. Rodriguez coordinated the civilian evacuation while simultaneously overseeing something far more ambitious. Colonel, the gravity sling calculations are complete. We can accelerate cargo containers to 0.75 light speed using the gas, giant's rotation, and our fusion drives. Cargo containers filled with what, exactly? Well, sir, technically they're still carrying our refined metals and manufactured goods. It's just that some of those goods happen to be high explosive. The HFY landing craft descended toward New Brisbane's main dome, expecting to find panicked civilians. Instead, they found something unprecedented. The humans had turned their entire colony into a weapons platform. Manufacturing robots, normally used for building construction, had been reprogrammed as mobile gun platforms. Mining lasers, designed to cut through asteroid rock, had been refocused and amplified. Even the colony's waste management system had been converted, launching specially designed projectiles through magnetic accelerators built into the city's infrastructure. This defies logical analysis. Corex shouted as his landing craft took heavy fire from what appeared to be garbage disposal units. They've weaponized their entire civilization. But the real surprise was yet to come. The probe network the humans had deployed wasn't just for sensors. Each tiny device contained a quantum entanglement communicator, allowing instantaneous coordination across the entire star system. Colonel Park's voice came over every communication channel simultaneously. "Admiral, you wanted to see what humans do when our families are threatened. Watch and learn." The cargo containers that had been launched using gravitational acceleration struck the K'tarn fleet with devastating precision. But instead of conventional explosives, they carried something far more insidious. Human-manufactured nanites, originally designed for asteroid mining, began systematically disassembling the alien ship's hull plating. Admiral, his engineering officer, called out in panic. "The hull breaches are spreading. These nanites are programmed with our ship specifications. Impossible. How could they know our technical designs?" The answer came from an unexpected source. Governor Vasquez appeared on the main screen, but she was no longer speaking from the colony's command center. She was aboard one of the human patrol vessels, wearing what appeared to be a military uniform. "Admiral, let me introduce myself properly. Governor Elena Vasquez, former Admiral Elena Vasquez, of the Earth Defense Force. You made two mistakes. First, you assumed our colonies were defenseless. Second, you attacked a system that's been preparing for this moment for 20 years. The K'tarn fleet found itself surrounded not by primitive colonists, but by a coordinated military operation that had been disguised as civilian infrastructure. The humans had spent decades preparing for exactly this scenario. Admiral, his tactical officer reported with growing alarm, detecting massive energy signatures from the outer system. Multiple human vessels approaching at near light speed. Admiral Vasquez's image smiled grimly. Meet the real Earth Defense Force. The colonies weren't just settlements, Admiral. They were forward bases. And you just activated the largest military network in human space. Corex watched in horror as his tactical display filled with contact signatures. Dozens of ships, all appearing to emerge from hiding spots throughout the system. But these weren't the primitive vessels they'd observed earlier. These were warships, their hulls bristling with weapons technology that seemed impossible for a Category 3 civilization. "How?" he whispered. "We learn, Admiral. Every species that's attacked humanity has taught us something new. The Zelti showed us energy shielding. The Breaktail demonstrated quantum computing. The hegemony. Well, you're about to show us your weaknesses." The battle that followed would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for centuries. The humans didn't fight like any known species. They adapted in real time, sharing tactical data across their entire fleet instantaneously. When K'tarn ships used particle beams, human vessels immediately deployed countermeasures. They'd apparently developed specifically for that weapon type. But what truly terrified the K'tarn observers was what happened when one of their destroyers was critically damaged. Instead of finishing it off, human medical ships moved in alongside their warships. They saved the alien crew, treated their wounded, and then politely asked them to surrender. Dr. Vexim watched the tactical feed with growing unease. "Ambassador, they're showing mercy to our forces, while simultaneously demonstrating superior tactics. This psychological warfare is ... sophisticated." The final phase of the battle began when Admiral Vasquez opened a direct channel to Corex. "Admiral, you have two choices. Surrender now, and we'll provide medical aid to your crews. or continue fighting and discover just how much humans have learned from studying captured hegemony technology, you're bluffing. No primitive species could reverse engineer our quantum matrices. Vasquez's ship suddenly vanished from sensors, reappearing directly behind Corax's flagship. Admiral, we didn't reverse engineer your technology. We improved it. The demonstration was brief but decisive. Human ships began phasing in and out of normal space, using what appeared to be an enhanced version of HFY quantum slipspace drives, but their version was faster, more precise, and apparently didn't require the massive energy expenditure of the original design. Impossible, ... double quotes, Corax breathed. Surrender, Admiral. Your ships are surrounded. Your technology has been surpassed. And frankly, we have better things to do than wipe out your entire fleet. The surrender came within minutes. Corax's remaining ships powered down their weapons and submitted to human boarding parties. The humans were professional, efficient, and disturbingly courteous. They provided medical aid to wounded HFY personnel and treated prisoners according to what they called humanitarian protocols. Back in the observation chamber, the HFY Council sat in stunned silence. The tactical data streams told an impossible story. A supposedly primitive species had not only defeated a full battle group, but had done so while demonstrating technology superior to their own. We may have underestimated them, Zethel said quietly. Science Officer Nelith's tentacles writhed with agitation. Underestimated. Ambassador, they've been reverse engineering every technology they've encountered. They're not just learning from their enemies, they're improving upon everything they capture. Most concerning is their organizational structure. Dr. Vexim added, they maintain individual initiative while achieving perfect coordination. Each colony appears autonomous, yet connected to a larger strategic framework. Tactical expert Quinder clicked his mandibles nervously. Their tactical doctrine incorporates deception, adaptation, and mercy in ways that confuse standard response protocols. How do you fight an enemy that saves your wounded while destroying your ships? Ambassador Zethel studied the final reports. The humans had captured Admiral Corax and his entire battle group, but instead of executing prisoners or seizing ships, they'd provided medical care and requested formal negotiations. Asterisk, they want to talk, Zethel announced to her council. The humans are proposing formal diplomatic contact. After demonstrating they can defeat our military forces, Corax added grimly. His image flickered in the holographic display from the human detention facility. Ambassador, they're not treating us as prisoners. They're treating us as ... guests. They've provided medical care, comfortable quarters, and access to our own food supplies. Psychological manipulation, Quindar suggested. No, Corax replied. I've observed their behavior. This is simply how they operate. They show strength through restraint, not brutality. The council's discussion was interrupted by an urgent alert. Tactical displays throughout the chamber lit up with new contact signatures. Massive ones. Ambassador. The communications officer called out, detecting multiple human vessels approaching the system border. Ship class unknown, but sensor readings indicate ... This is impossible. Report, Zethel demanded. Single vessel, estimated length 12 kilometers. Hull composition appears to be a crystalline metallic hybrid. Energy signature suggests multiple fusion cores operating in parallel. It's larger than a hegemony dreadnought. Dr. Vexim's multifaceted eyes reflected the tactical display. Data, 12 kilometers. That's not a ship, that's a mobile battle station. The massive human vessel came to a halt just outside the system's gravity well. Its communication array activated, broadcasting on frequencies that suggested intimate knowledge of HFY technology. HFY Council. This is Fleet Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Force. I believe you have some of our people in your custody. Zethel recognized the name immediately. The human from the research station. But that's impossible. She was reported killed in the reactor explosion. Reports of my death were greatly exaggerated, Admiral Chen replied. I was evacuated with the research data. The past several months have been educational. How did you survive? Zethel asked. The same way humans always survive. We adapt, we learn, we prepare. Chun's voice carried a note of grim satisfaction. Council members, I'm here to discuss the future of human-HFY relations. You're in no position to make demands, Zethel replied, though her confidence was shaken by the massive vessel on her sensors. I'm not making demands, Ambassador. I'm offering you a choice. The tactical display updated with new sensor data. The human ship wasn't alone. Dozens of similar vessels were approaching from multiple vectors. Their quantum signatures suggesting they'd been waiting in slipspace for the perfect moment to reveal themselves. Choice, Zethel whispered. The hegemony has been expanding across the galaxy for centuries, absorbing or destroying every species you encounter. You classify civilizations by their technology and decide their fate based on arbitrary categories. Chun's voice remained calm, professional, but you made a critical error in your calculations. What error? You assumed that Category 3 meant inferior. You never considered that Category 3 might mean hidden. The implications hit the HFY Council like a gravitational wave. If the humans had been concealing their true capabilities, if they'd been studying every species they encountered while pretending to be primitive, ... double quotes, how long? Zethel asked. How long have we been watching? How long have we been preparing? Or, how long have we been waiting for the right moment to reveal ourselves? Chun's tone remained maddeningly calm. The answer to all three questions is the same. Since the moment your species first entered our galactic neighborhood, Science Officer Nelith's tentacles coiled with anxiety. You've been observing us, learning. From you, every species the hegemony has conquered taught us something valuable. HFY, technology, Zelti energy manipulation, breakthrough quantum computing, Vexim biological engineering. We've been excellent students. Dr. Vexim's species designation had been mentioned. You know about the Vexim Collective. We know about everyone, Doctor, including the 17 species that have gone extinct because they refused to submit to hegemony authority. Chen's voice carried a note of controlled anger. We've been preparing for this conversation for a very long time. The massive human vessel began broadcasting detailed technical specifications, weapon systems that combined technologies from dozens of species, defensive capabilities that seemed to violate several laws of physics, manufacturing capabilities that suggested an industrial base spanning multiple star systems. Impossible, Quindor breathed. No single species could integrate so many different technological paradigms. You're right, Chen agreed. No single species could, but humans aren't a single species anymore. We're a coalition. Every species that's ever asked for our help, every refugee population that's fled hegemony expansion, every survivor of conquest who's made it to human space, ... They're all part of the Terran Defense Force now. The revelation struck the HFY Council like a physical blow. The humans hadn't just been studying the hegemony's technology. They'd been gathering survivors, refugees, and displaced populations from every species the hegemony had conquered, or attempted to conquer. "You're telling us," Zethel said slowly, "that humans have been building a coalition of every species that opposes the hegemony." "Not building, Ambassador, built. The K'tarn Defense Force represents 43 different species, over 200 star systems, and a combined population of nearly 50 billion sentient beings." Chun's voice carried quiet pride. "We've been waiting for the right moment to introduce ourselves, and that moment is now. The moment you attacked our colonies, you declared war on every species under human protection. The moment you captured our research data, you gave us detailed intelligence on hegemony military capabilities. The moment you underestimated us as Category 3 primitives, you made your final strategic error." Tactical expert Quinder studied the sensor readings with growing horror. "Ambassador, the tactical implications, if they've been observing us for decades, if they've integrated technology from every species we've encountered. They know everything," Dr. Vexim finished. "Every weakness, every tactical doctrine, every technological limitation. We've been conducting military operations while being systematically studied by a superior intelligence." Admiral K'tarn's vessel moved closer to the system's inner planets, its massive hull reflecting the star's light like a crystalline mountain. "Council members, I'm authorized to offer you the same choice we've offered every hegemony world that's shown wisdom over aggression. What choice? Join us or face us. The hegemony's expansion ends here. The question is whether it ends through alliance or conquest." The holographic displays showed detailed schematics of human military capabilities, weapon systems that could sterilize entire planets, defensive networks that could protect star systems from invasion, manufacturing complexes that could produce fleets of warships in a matter of months. But what truly terrified the K'thfer observers was the psychological profile data. The humans had been studying not just technology, but behavior, tactics, and social structures. They knew how every hegemony species thought, how they made decisions, how they could be convinced or coerced. "You've been planning this for decades," Zethel said. "Centuries, actually. Ever since the first human exploration ships detected hegemony expansion patterns, we realized early that your species would eventually reach our territory. We decided to be ready. And if we refuse your offer," the tactical display updated with new data, human vessels were approaching every major hegemony world simultaneously. The coordination was perfect, the timing precise. This wasn't a spontaneous military action. This was the execution of a plan that had been decades in the making. "You won't refuse," Chen said calmly, "because you're intelligent enough to recognize an impossible tactical situation when you see one." Science Officer Nelith's tentacles writhed with nervous energy. "They're more dangerous than we imagined. Ambassador, they haven't just matched our capabilities. They've surpassed them while maintaining the appearance of primitive technology. The deception is complete," Dr. Vexim added. "They allowed us to capture some of their people, knowing we would study them and classify them as Category 3. They wanted us to underestimate them." Admiral K'tarn's voice returned to the communication channel. "Council members, I'm transmitting the terms of alliance. Study them carefully. You have 48 standard hours to respond." The terms were comprehensive, fair, and utterly humiliating for a species that had considered itself the dominant military power in the galaxy. The hegemony would cease all expansion activities. All conquered species would be granted independence. Military technology would be shared freely among coalition members. Most importantly, The K'tarn would submit to human strategic oversight in all interstellar conflicts. These terms are unacceptable, Quindar protested. The hegemony has ruled this region of space for over 1,000 years, and in 48 hours that will end, Chen replied. The only question is whether it ends with the K'tarn as allies or as a conquered species. The communication channel closed, leaving the council in stunned silence. The tactical displays continued, showing human vessels taking strategic positions throughout hegemony space. The movement was coordinated, efficient, and overwhelmingly superior to anything the K'tarn could deploy. Emergency session, Zethel announced. Contact the Hegemony High Command. We need to discuss immediate strategic options. But even as she spoke, she knew the truth. There were no strategic options. The humans had outmaneuvered them completely, demonstrating capabilities that made conventional military resistance impossible. They are more dangerous than we imagined, she admitted quietly. We must reassess our entire understanding of this species. The emergency session of the Hegemony High Command lasted 18 hours. Representatives from 12 different K'tarn worlds participated, their holographic forms flickering in the secure council chamber. The debate was heated, desperate, and ultimately futile. The tactical analysis is clear, Supreme Commander K'tarn announced, his ancient carapace bearing the scars of countless campaigns. The humans have achieved strategic superiority through systematic deception and technological integration. Conventional military response is impossible. Impossible. Tactical expert Quindar's mandibles clicked with agitation. We command over 300 dreadnoughts, 2,000 escort vessels, and orbital defense platforms around 50 worlds, all of which are currently surrounded by human vessels demonstrating superior firepower. Admiral K'tarn reported from his detention facility. Supreme Commander, I've observed their capabilities firsthand. They're not bluffing. Ambassador Zethel studied the latest intelligence reports. Human fleets had appeared simultaneously at every major hegemony installation. The coordination was perfect, the timing impossible to achieve without decades of planning. Dr. Vexham, provide your psychological assessment of human negotiating behavior. The behavioral analyst's multifaceted eyes reflected the data streams. Ambassador, they demonstrate a consistent pattern of offering alliance before conquest. Species that accept their terms are integrated as equals. Species that refuse, cease to exist. You're saying they'll genocide entire civilizations? No. They'll offer refuge to non-combatants and military personnel willing to surrender. But they'll systematically dismantle any government or military structure that opposes them. The end result is the same. The hostile power structure disappears. Science Officer Nelith's tentacles coiled with nervous energy. The probability models indicate a 97% chance of successful human conquest if we refuse their terms. They have technological superiority, numerical advantage, and complete strategic surprise. What about the other 3%? Supreme Commander asked. Margin of error in our calculations, Nelith admitted. Realistically, our chances of successful resistance are 0. The debate continued through the night, but the conclusion was inevitable. The K'tarn had built their empire on the assumption that superior technology guaranteed victory. The humans had demonstrated that assumption was false. Contact Admiral Chen, Zethel ordered. Inform her that the Hegemony Council accepts the terms of alliance. The response came within minutes. Ambassador, Admiral Chen is pleased to hear of your decision. Integration protocols will begin immediately. Your people will find the transition ... educational. 6 months later, Ambassador Zethel stood in the observation deck of the human vessel Determination, watching her homeworld through the massive, transparent aluminum viewports. Below, Kethba cities sparkled with new technologies provided by their human allies. Fusion reactors had been replaced with zero-point energy generators. Transportation networks had been upgraded with quantum tunneling systems. Agricultural domes now used matter conversion techniques that could feed millions, adjusting well to the changes. Admiral Chen asked, joining her at the viewport. "Your species is remarkable," Zethler admitted. "In 6 months, you've improved our infrastructure beyond what we achieved in centuries of expansion. That's what happens when 43 different species share their knowledge freely. Everyone benefits, but the cost of giving up conquest." Chen smiled. "Ambassador, your people are happier now than they've been in generations. When was the last time a Kethva died in military action?" Zethel considered the question. Military casualties had dropped to 0 since the Alliance. Crime rates had plummeted. Scientific advancement had accelerated exponentially. The Kethva were prospering in ways they'd never imagined. "You planned this entire scenario," she said finally. "We prepared for it. There's a difference. We hoped you'd choose alliance over conquest. Most species do when they realize the benefits. And if we hadn't," Admiral Chen's expression grew serious, "then we would have done what was necessary to protect the species under our care. But we would have offered asylum to every Kethva who wanted it. You would have preserved our people while destroying our government. We would have preserved everyone who was willing to be preserved. The goal was never to harm anyone, Ambassador. The goal was to end the expansion of harmful power structures." Zethel studied the human admiral's face. "You're not warriors, you're gardeners. I like that analogy. We cultivate civilizations instead of conquering them. What happens now? Now we prepare for the next challenge. The galaxy is vast, Ambassador. There are other empires, other threats, other species that need protection. The work never ends, and humanity leads this coalition. Humanity organized it, but we don't lead it. Every species contributes according to their abilities and interests. The Zelti handle energy production. The Breaktal manage quantum computing, networks. The Vexim oversee biological research. The Kethva double quotes, Chen smiled. The Kethva are becoming excellent strategic planners. Ambassador Zethel felt something she hadn't experienced in decades. Hope, Admiral, what classification? Would you